I want to explain you something about Cisco RV042 router. This router is an SMB from the Cisco. SMB means the offices which have 15 or 20 users or 30 users. It's best suits for this. Let's talk about the features. WAN failover and load balancing. If you have two internet connections in your network, uh, you can create a failover so that if the one internet fails, the second WAN internet will take care of it. And load balancing talk about if you want to use both the internet connection at the same time, you can configure to load the balance between the ISPs. IPsec VPN tunnel. If you have a head office and branch office, you can create a IPsec tunnel between the branch and head office to have a communication between them. And let's talk about the client VPN. After the COVID, users are connecting from their homes. So by creating a client VPN profile and installing this client VPN at the user's laptop, he can access applications which are connected under this router. And network address translation. If you want to host the application server under the network, you can expose your server through the public IP so that they can access it. And the application control talks about the Cisco's umbrella VPN, umbrella DNS services, which you can restrict the web and URL filtering and restrict the users from accessing unauthorized websites. Like if you want to restrict from YouTube, you can do it. Yeah. Before that, you have to connect power on the router and connect the PC into the LAN port of the router. By default, the the PC gets the IP in 192.168.1. series, and the default IP of the router is 192.168.1.1. If you issue this 192.168.1.1 in the browser, you will get the login page, and it will show for the username and password. The default username and password of this router is Cisco or admin. If you issue this username and password, you can log in into the system. Once you log in into the system, you can set up with the initial setup wizard or the second way. Let's talk about the initial setup wizard. You can create the initial setup by clicking next. Once you click on the next, it will automatically check the cable is connected to the ports or not, but I'll select the WAN 2 because the WAN 1 is already connected in the live network, and it shows that no network is connected. Okay, click on next and select the IP address format given by the ISP. For example, if I select static, give the IP address which was provided by the ISP guy, and subnetworks which was shared by them, and gateway IP address, this also given by the ISP, and DNS of the ISP, and click on next and select the time zone where your network resides, and everything is default. Click next. And if you want to change the default password, you can change it here. I am putting like this because it is already a live router. I'm not clicking on the submit because, as I said, it is a live router, and I was exit. Yeah. And the other way to configure is the LAN port. Like, go for the LAN, click on the LAN settings, configure the LAN settings on it, or you can select the LAN port from DHCP or LAN settings, and by default VLAN 1 is it's already pre-configured with the DHCP server. If you want to have a different VLAN from the network, you can add it. Yes, these are the default settings of, and if you see the default configurations, and you can also select the DHCP options from it. And if you want to add on more VLAN, you can do it. If you can configure the VLANs, like you can create a VLAN table with a VLAN ID and what is the VLAN interface IP, and if you want to configure the DHCP server the same way, you can create a range and configure the DNS settings, which this DNS IP should be DHCP when the DHCP IP released, and it will give you the DNS entries to your local PC. Yes, if you apply it, it will applies the configuration on the VLAN, and you have to tag to the port. For that, what you have to do is log in into uh, LAN settings, LAN settings, and the VLAN created, and you have to search for the VLAN 2, which should on which port the VLAN 2 should be untagged, so that it will act as an access port. Yes, make it as untagged for the LAN port 2, so that uh, when we connect this laptop or switch to the LAN 2, it will get released with the 192.168.2 series. And let's talk about the local database, a DNS local database. For example, if you have a local or internal DNS servers or internal applications which suppose not to be really exposed to the external world, we can configure a local DNS servers or local DNS database table, so that if we type some local IP address or local URL, something like ad.dl, it should resolve to a particular IP, we can configure a DNS local database, so that when the DNS comes entries comes to the server, the router, it will release to the local IP. Yes, it will configure to the local IP.